welcome everyone to Chia in China AMA this weekend, and I hope you have a very nice weekend together with us. So today we're honored to invite Richard, the CMO of Chia Network, come to here as our guest, and we will introduce something about TCG and the code and how to solve the problem in the metaverse and the GameFi industry. So 欢迎大家, so welcome everyone, and especially welcome to Richard. So could you please introduce yourself a little bit?
Oh, okay. I thought you did a great job introducing me already, in Chinese at least, but I'll introduce myself in English. So I'm currently heading the Chia's metaverse strategy. Prior to joining Chia, I've worked over 20 years in the video game industry, 10 of which was in China. And actually, if any of you know anybody in the Chengdu video game industry, they probably know of me or have actually worked with me before, because when I came to Chengdu, I worked for Ubisoft, and we were one of the first international game development studios in Chengdu, and we helped grow that industry from start to how big it is now. And then prior to Ubisoft Chengdu, I worked 2 years in Shanghai for Ubisoft Shanghai. So most of my experience have been on online games, and I played a lot of online games. And because if you ever play online games, there are particular things you learn in online games that really is frustrating. I will name a couple things that really bothered me, so you can understand why we've decided to do this project. So whenever a new game launch, I have to go rush and try to make sure I can get my favorite game name, my gamer tag, or in-game name. And I'm always afraid somebody's taking it before I got it. And of course, when I play a game for a while, months or years, I invest a lot of time. I've earned these cool outfits or bought them or these cool items. And then I always am frustrated I couldn't take these momentum with or these items I've earned outside of the game to show off in other ways, like in other games or anything else. And even worse, when some of the games shut down, you lose everything. For example, especially in China, as for recently, any China World of Warcraft or Blizzard gamer in China suffered a lot when they had to shut down, NetEase had to shut down the relationship with Blizzard and lost everything. With that context, you can see why I wanted to build an open metaverse economy, digital economy, where all the items that you buy and you earn can go with you, regardless if you play that game in the future or not, regardless if the game server shut down or not. You at least have this memento of these are the in-game items and the in-game outfits that you've earned over time. So that's the genesis of why I want to build Chia TCG and the code framework, the Chia Open Digital Economy Framework, is to support all future games having the ability to have items owned by the players, transferable and usable in other games if other games allow it. So anyway, that's the genesis of why I want to do it. I'm happy to start answering any questions that you guys have about, what this means, what it is, or whatever it is you want to ask.
So Richard actually has answered my first question already, half of them. I want to ask him that where the idea, the Chia TCG idea come from, and what problems has been solved for both the game industry and the blockchain industry. So could you please explain more about how you think about the TCG will bring the new fresh air for the current metaverse industry.
Okay. So where did the idea TCG came from? This was when I was brainstorming the NFT one standard over almost 2 years ago now, or at least a year ago now. And I was talking to Matt Howard, one of the lead engineers for Chia, and we were saying, how can we really showcase and make cool offers? Because offers is a really, really different paradigm of how you do true decentralized peer-to-peer trading. Everybody in Chia understands it. But when you go outside of Chia ecosystem, almost nobody else in blockchain or Web3 understands offers because it can't be done on any other blockchain. So I noticed somebody saying BTC ordinals can do something similar. That is true, but you got to remember, I was thinking about this way before BTC ordinals existed. Now, regarding how will this change the gaming and blockchain industry, here's how I envision it. First of all, you have to understand, just on the trading card game, digital trading card games, I will just use this as the example. There is no other blockchain today, Web 2 game or Web 3 game, that allowed you to do the following. You cannot actually trade cards with other people. T stands for trading in trading card games. You can only buy and sell cards in digital trading card games today. We're going to be the first to show you can actually trade with other players, trading cards, just like you had the physical trading card games you ever played, like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon. Okay, so the reason why this is important is if you are going to have a true open metaverse where you have digital items and you meet somebody and you want to trade something, that's just normal things that you could do in the real world when you talk about an economy, right? But in all the blockchain industry now and the gaming industry, you cannot do this across games. You cannot do this even with most things inside a game, okay? Obviously, MMORPGs can do that because that's part of the key of MMORPG success. But in general, across different games, you cannot do this. This is what Chia's metaverse strategy is about. Allowing game companies to have their digital assets to be used not only in their own games, but in other people's games in the future. And to be very clear, all of this you own in your own digital wallet, right? So even if the game shuts down, the game server shuts down, you still have those assets. What's next, Jack?
Okay, I have a bunch of questions waiting for you. Okay.
Sure, go.
So why you think Chia is better to implement TCG other than other blockchains?
I kind of answered this already, but I'll be more explicit. No other blockchain allows you to actually do true, trustless, peer-to-peer trading directly with other people. It's trustless. It doesn't require counterparty risk. You guys all know how to use this through offer files. There is no equivalent in any other blockchain to do this. And it puts trading back into trading card games, basically.
Okay. So what's the development significance of the code framework?
Okay, so it is more of a framework to educate people outside of the Chia ecosystem. If you think about it, everything that you read about code is technology that Chia already has per se. It's just being used differently. Okay. So the code framework is a way to kind of educate people outside of Chia and also to give a framework of how when somebody sees a game was developed on code, they know there are certain types of things that would be available to them that is not necessarily available in other, let's say, blockchain frameworks, okay, or blockchain technology, okay? So here are some of the basic things so people really understand, okay? The first significant thing about code is it has to be done on a truly decentralized public blockchain, okay, that is run by the people for the people, okay? And I think it's absolutely important to do that. One of the reasons why we decided to just say Chia's open digital economy versus just a generic open digital economy is we believe Chia is the first blockchain that could fulfill this important role, okay? If the reason why I stress that you need a public decentralized blockchain is if it's more centralized, your assets, your digital assets you own may be censored or may be removed from the blockchain. And that doesn't allow you to have true digital ownership if some arbitrary entity, company, or government can decide to go, oh, we don't want you to have this anymore. And then it just, disappears from your wallet. So the second thing that's required in this framework is every person should have a digital identity. Is if you need to be recognized in this digital world, you need to have some identity. Now, does that identity need to reveal your real name? No. Can you be anonymous? Yes, but it still has to be requires identity. And here's the reason. Everything else is attached to that identity. The money you own, the digital currency you own, the NFTs you own. So without this basic digital identity, it's very hard to know who has what, right? So that's why it's a basic core component of an open digital economy. Then there are optional things into this framework, okay? Well, I would say it's not necessarily optional. It depends what you want to do. If you want to have representation of digital currency, then you need a way to do that. And in Chia, that would be cats. If you want to represent a unique digital asset that is not currency, then you need something else like NFTs. So depending on what you want associated with people, digital currency or digital assets, you would also need to use cats or NFTs. Then, of course, if you want to do any types of transaction between two users, we would require you to use offers. And offers then allows you to do either peer-to-peer trading or it can be hosted in a marketplace. But either way, it allows you to do transactions with two users, right? This is obvious for everybody in the Chia ecosystem. Not so obvious when you're not familiar with the Chia ecosystem. And then when you want to add additional metadata or upgrade certain stats or changes to the, let's say, NFTs, you should be using datalayer because you want to share that information across different games. So the code framework in summary is to educate everybody. If you want to do something relate to how to solve certain problems for the digital economy, we have these specific technology primitives and standards on how you should use it so that every game or every future metaverse ecosystem that builds on top of Chia has this interoperability standard. right? Without this framework, everybody can do different things, and then it will be very hard to have different games have interoperability. I'm not sure what the question is. It sounds like people ask, we don't support XCH. I assume it's the baseline currency in our blockchain. So yeah, XCH is supported everywhere. I'm just using this as the general framework for every game that's considering to launch on Chia's blockchain.
Should I translate that part?
I don't know because the person asked in Chinese, so I just answered. I should have answered in Chinese for him actually, but sorry.
Yeah, let's do that part later on.
Okay, that's fine.
We'll do our question first.
Okay, what's the next question, Jack?
Okay, let's talk about the interoperability. Operability. Okay. So the importance and the necessity of the interoperability, as well as the mutual recognition and association of brand IP moving, maybe for example, similar to the different projects in Chia inventory before, to cooperate and play together.
Yeah, so Chia Inventory was really exciting for me. I did watch its development. I tried to contact them, but it seemed like they stopped development, but somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But there are definitely similar concepts that we are trying to do with Chia TCG that was done already in Chia Inventory, for sure. I think the biggest difference for us is we want to open source our game. So other people will create other versions of TCG games. And then as soon as there's one other game that does their own version of TCG, we now have the true concept of metaverse, right? You own a particular NFT now that can be used in more than one game. With Chia Inventory, there was only Chia Inventory. There was not another versions of Chia Inventory was a completely different kind of Chia Inventory game. You see what I'm trying to say? And that's the slight big difference. Does that make sense?
So could you please give us a brief introduction to the Chia TCG gameplay and compare with the well-known TCG games like Magic, The Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Hearthstone, say, and so on?
It will not be like any of those games.
Okay.
Most of all the games you mentioned, actually all the games you mentioned, are PvP games. PvP, 1 versus 1 trading card game. We are making a cooperative game. 2 players cooperate with each other to defeat an AI. And then there'll be a point system and how well you defeated the AI, and everybody competes on a leaderboard. And then we will have, I'll just say, maybe reasons for you to trade cards with other players. And that's probably as much as I'm going to say today.
So
okay.
Is that possible that in the future, AI will integrate with the player somehow? So actually, finally, the games are played by AIs.
I have no idea. I will say this: the AIs we're creating is nothing like ChatGPT AI right now. Okay, it's very simple game AI. Okay, and just to be very clear, we are making a reference game with the community. We are expecting better games to be developed than us. We're just trying to jumpstart the idea of an open metaverse in the trading card game space because of our unique technology makes it much more appealing. That's it. We are not game developers.
So how the T level of the Chia TCG card calculate, and why the items after block 32 M were chosen, and all default to be T1, whether is it not conducive to the additional new projects?
Okay. First I want to correct. It's block 3.2 million. So
哦
3200万。
200万，
No, 320万。Okay. It's well. Anyway, 3.2 million.
3 million, 3 million.2. Okay.
Yeah. 3,200,000. Okay. So that's the first thing. Okay.
Oh.
Why do we choose that block height? It's simply because that's when we started developing the game. And the reason why that's important is we didn't want people to cheat once the game started development, because we included a lot of the community dev members, in a closed dev alpha. We didn't want them to start creating new NFTs, looking for artificially creating higher tier NFT cards, holding on to them, and then selling for the crazy prices that we're seeing right now. So we want it to be fair. Now, we agree there are new NFTs that have been created after that block height, but we do have plans to have multiple seasons. So for season 1, only NFTs below minted before block 3.2 million will have higher tiers, and all the other cards will be tier 1. But for season 2, we will introduce more access to the next set of cards that will have maybe a different type of tier system or different type of attributes, and they will include cards minted NFTs minted after 3.2 million, and then some other future block height. That's kind of how we plan to deal with this. So it's fair. There's no cheating. And if people wanted to know how we calculate it, it's based on NFT ID. It's totally random. You can never cheat it because nobody knows how to predict what the next NFT ID is going to be.
Okay. So the T level will change by seasons, right?
I don't think we will change the. We don't have the exact plan yet, but we know we will include more tier level for the newer cards later. Okay, so the newer NFTs, we will do something for them. Okay, every season, but season 1 right now, only 3.2 million has higher tiers, but every NFT can be used, but all the other ones, newer ones, will only be tier 1 for now. Okay.
So where does the TCG card tier level exist on a data layer or not? And does TCG need a card database to filter by T level, and rather than the other single collection query?
So we do not store the tier level on a data layer today. It is something we want to do later, because we had only limited amount of time, so we have to build an MVP. So the tier levels are right now very programmatically determined by the NFT ID, and some people already reverse engineer the tier level, so they kind of know how to calculate already.
So the economic model of Chia TCG, is there some reward model like in other TCG games?
We were supposed to. So we had to cut that feature for our May 18th launch. So I'll tell you a little bit about this story. It's a little backstory, and I think it's somewhat been shared in other spaces already. The original plan was, when we were going to launch this game and announce it, it was going to be tied to the Chia anniversary dates. We were going to announce it during the Chia 1-year anniversary mainnet launch, and then we were going to then release it in the Chia transaction anniversary. Certain things changed along the way. I'm not going to go on the details why, but we decided to announce when we did. So part of that was we wanted the community to donate NFTs for the ability to reward to other players. But the ability to do that required us to create some tools for people to submit, and we can verify there's no like IP violations, and then allow it to be, used in the pool. Well, the development of that tool didn't get finished on time, and the person working on it had to go on to other things. So we're left with an incomplete, ability to do this. So we decide to postpone this additional feature till later, until we have a way where the community can submit NFTs and get validated, and then we would do rewards. So we will have a leaderboard first, and that will be the only thing we'll have. But we hope to have some kind of reward system, let's just say late summer, early fall. Okay. Or now that we are open sourcing it, now that we have an MVP, maybe other ecosystem developers want to spend the time, and building that set of the features. We're more than happy to talk about that once we open source the game.
So does Chia TCG or code encourage the community to fork after open source? If so, how to determine the NFT attributes of their different games?
So we do encourage people to fork our game. And we do encourage them to create their own NFT attributes. This is the reason why I said we're defining a framework, but it's an MVP, so we haven't done the data layer integration part. We're going to ask and work with the community to define a standard of how we will share the data layer stuff, for these type of attributes. But since we're the first, we didn't want to just define here's a set of attributes and how it should be shared in data layer, and then other games are forced to use something that they may not agree to. Okay, so one of the things we will be doing is we will have the community engage in the process of collaboratively writing a white paper on how the code framework should work, so we all can contribute and all agree upon the interoperability. The reason why we focus only on NFTs and offers and nothing else is we knew that was universal for any project. But then if you're talking about how data layers should be used across different projects, or how cat coins should be used across different projects, that requires some discussion with the rest of the community, which is why we have not done MVPs for those.
So is there any subsequent plans for integrate Chia TCG properties into the wallet?
Not at this time. One of the views and vision we have, or at least I should say I have, about just the code framework is we want to make the code framework not require Chia wallet long term, because you got to remember the type of game developers and game operators I'm going after have their own systems, of how players log in and how they store things. We want to be able to integrate seamlessly with those things. So right now, the way we do it is we do want Wallet Connect for Chia Wallet, but it's just for the Chia ecosystem. When you talk about more wider adoption game industry, nobody's gonna want to be forced to download a Chia wallet of any kind before starting to play a game, right? So we're gonna have to solve that with these game developers separately.
So after we launched the TCG, we can see that a lot of Chia community, we are excited, but in a broader vision, how is the market, especially the traditional game market, response to Chia TCG?
So let me split that into a couple answers. Okay. For the so you already mentioned it's very popular in the Chia ecosystem, which is awesome. It seems to have also broken into some of the Ethereum ecosystem because some larger Ethereum creators are planning to come to Monkey Zoo's spaces tomorrow to just listen to what I have to say about Chia TCG and code. So that's good news. So in the, well, say the crypto Twitter verse, we're breaking through a bit in Ethereum, which we've never done before. Okay, there's none of the other projects that we've done internally at Chia made Ethereum people, creators go, ooh, I want to go look what's going on there. So that's great news. Then there's general blockchain industry visibility. I can't say what yet because this is standard embargo, but I will say there are top crypto news outlets who want, exclusive is not the right word, but want interviews with both Gene and I to talk more about what we're doing on code and Chia TCG. And also podcasts that are traditionally never covers Chia are interested to talk about this. So that's great in the blockchain industry. In the game industry, it has not broken through, but that is by design. We did not directly target a wide audience in the game industry in the West because the game industry in the West really hates Web3 gaming and blockchain gaming and crypto gaming. So it made no sense to try to even engage those groups right now. It would just fall on deaf ears. Now, you may be wondering, then why am I bothering doing this if the Western game industry hates Web3, blockchain gaming, and crypto? Well, I will tell you a short story. A couple, I would say, yeah, over almost 2 decades ago, or at least 10 years ago, the West hated free-to-play games, really hated free-to-play games. Nobody would do free-to-play games. But free-to-play games was invented in Korea, mastered in Southeast Asia, including China, and very popular online games were all free-to-play in the East, in Asia, way before it became popular in the West. Then there was this Chinese invented game called Dota that became very popular. And a small startup company called Riot Games took the idea of Dota, made it free to play in the West, and is now one of the biggest games in the world. And by the way, if you don't know, I also was an executive who worked at Riot Games reporting to the CEO before I left to do this stuff. So I've worked in the game industry long enough to tell you this pattern happens over and over again. It was first free to play, then it was social gaming invented in China, and then much more, I would say, popular in the West a few years later on Facebook and other social media. And then mobile gaming pioneered also in Asia and then became popular in the West. I believe Web3 gaming, blockchain gaming, metaverse gaming, whatever you want to call it, will start here. When I say here, I should say start in Asia, be popular in Asia, especially China, South Korea, and Japan, and Southeast Asia. And then 5 years later, it will become something that the West will actually consider.
For a traditional game developer or team, what's the benefits to join TCG, and what's the challenges?
So the benefits if you're an early developer into the code framework and generally Chia TCG, and we're not restricting to just TCGs, but it's the easiest right now to do, okay? But we will do other types of games later. Is your assets being early means that more and more people may want those assets later on as the ecosystem grows, right? Your assets will be there longest. So people would want some of those because hopefully you've learned faster. I mean, you learned because you're earlier how to make your assets appealing for the target market. So that's the advantage. The other advantage is hopefully by the end of the year, we'll create a blockchain abstraction layer so that you don't need to understand Chia blockchain to integrate all the good features of Chia to make your online game now work in the Chia blockchain, okay? So the challenges are a lot as well. I will start with challenges that we have control over and then challenges we have no control over. Challenges we have control over. One is it's very hard for anybody to integrate Chia today as a game developer because they have to really understand Chia and the blockchain tech and all the other stuff and how to run nodes and create wallet software. It's complicated, let's be honest, right? So as I mentioned before, we want to create an abstraction layer and a toolkit so game developers don't need to worry about blockchain and knows, oh, if I just plug this way, I create an asset that, oh, they don't care it's NFT or anything else. It's just an API call and it magically works for them. Now there are challenges that's sort of outside of our control. One is we don't know how to get critical mass yet, right? If you compare to other blockchains like Polygon, they've reached critical mass, right? We need to find a way to get that one or two really good game that everybody goes, wow, this is so fun. And they will come to that and thus become also Chia, gamers, right? That's my next challenge. It's really outside your control unless you happen to make that cool game. And thank you if you do. But I'm trying to find cool games or cool game developers who will develop on Chia.
I heard that you will be visiting China in near future. And could you please tell us some arrangement and the purpose of this trip?
I'm sure you can guess by now, based on what I said before, why I'm coming to China, but I'll be very explicit. I'm coming to China and the Southeast Asia looking for game developers who might be interested to try developing games on Chia. That's my whole purpose of going out there. China is a favorite country of mine for many reasons. One, because I'm an American-born Chinese. B, I spent 10 years in China helping mentor and coach and create future game developers. Some of them are leaders in game development studios now, all around China. So I'm hoping they still remember me and might be more interested to talk to me. It's pretty obvious what I'm trying to do. So I think there's no more answers to that. Of course, I also want to meet the Chia in China community, and I will be coordinating with Hema Dao on some of these gatherings. So
Okay, thank you very much. 谢谢你。为了感谢 Richard 来参加我们的这个 Chia in China AMA， 我们河马道将赠送您一枚这个 GOC 的 NFT。表示我们的一个感谢。然后呢，希望你能够把它的 T 级别调高一点。OK，
我看以后。Lottery， 谁要 lottery？ 什么 lottery？
As appreciate for Richard to join our Change at AMA, we will present you with GOC NFT as a gift. So that's all we have today for our online AMA, and now it's open to the online members. If you have any questions, go ahead and open your mic. Okay. 有没有？大家可以开麦直接问，然后用中文问，我们来测试一下这个 Richard 的这个中文水平。他现在
我很怕了。
他现在需要练习
是
临阵磨枪，不亮也光，对吧？不快也光。
有没有人要？第一人，
我看 Steve 在啊，还有 Chronos 也在。
Yeah.
Art go to sleep already. So Steve, do you have any questions? Unmute. You 现在是不是小助理是不是可以让大家能够自由开麦了？可以自由开麦了，是吧？哎。就是怎么是我在说话？头像是一样的。
No questions. Okay.
No questions. So you guys so smart.
要不然我说两句，我提个问题吧。
好。
Richard， 下午好。是这样的，就是那个整个 TCG 的那个想法，我觉得应该是很 nice 的。但是那个我在一些地方上有一些小疑问，就是在考虑就是 T 级别的这种综合属性是不是适合在就是目前在 datalayer 上体现，因为这样的话后边假如说大家 fork 了一款新的游戏，那相当于会有很多满级的玩家直接就进入了，那这样的话游戏之间的公平性应该怎么考虑？
I don't have an 我还没有想好这么个事情，所以我不知道。对不起，我可以告诉你这个原因。我的工作现在是怎么讲我要想这个字strategy. What's the word that's called strategy in Chinese?
策略战略。
Yeah. 所以我现在就是我只是想这个很大的个做
大的框架。
Yeah， 是。所以这个那个游戏，那个 TCG 游戏，大部分我不是做的，那是一个OK， 我就community developers 怎么讲？
社区开发者。
OK， 是去开发者是做这些事情，跟他们是小的只3个人做这个事情，所以他们还没有想这么这东西，我没有说要做这个事情。现在明白？我就希望下个月我们开how do you say open source 开源这个TCG， 我们大部分那个是去开发人一起可以决定怎么做这个事情。我只是这就是这样子，现在是想法。
好的，谢谢瑞山。
对不起，我中文很差。
听懂了。
很好。
非常不错。
要不我也问几个问题吧。
Oh, by the way, we should translate that whole question and answer. to English
okay.
from the English people.
Okay.
Can you do
So-
that, Bernard?
Yeah,
Sorry.
so basically what Leo asked is so with the T-level system, if somebody if the interoperability may cause an issue that if you are like at a really high level, you can just all of a sudden switch on to another game and become the and just stay on the same level. So you don't have this kind of like probably incentive or other things to play the game anymore. And what Richard said was this he's more on the like overlook of the whole like games and the future of the games, not really on the developing part. The developing part will be mainly heavily depending on the community developers, especially for the future. What we're gonna do is we're gonna modify the standard and write the white paper with everyone to see how we can work through this interoperability stuff. That's basically it, I think.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
OK，小毛你问吧。
好，我问哈，Richard 下午好哈，我也有几个问题啊，因为我其实就是也算是游戏资深玩家了哈，然后 TCG 的卡牌游戏我也都有玩，像万智啊，像游戏王啊，像炉石这些我都在玩。然后这些卡牌游戏它有一个共同点，就是 TCG 嘛，集换式交换类卡牌，它除了游戏本身之外，它还有这个卡牌自身的属性，就是如果它很稀有，或者是这个很受人家欢迎，就前一应该是上个月，游戏王它有一场这个全世界只有1张的卡牌进行了公开拍卖，应该拍卖了31万美金啊。然后就在这个方面，我想再跟咱们Chia TCG 上有什么共同点呢？比如说不同的项目方可能受到的欢迎度不同，但是在游戏里它跟这个项目方的受欢迎度，这个 T 级的匹配程度又是不一样的。那这一点咱们是怎么考虑的？
Okay. I need a little help of translation. That was way deeper words than I understand. Sorry.
So basically what Seasons Home said is there's in-game traits that are used in-game. There's also rarities of the NFT itself that's supposed to be represented in a game in some way. In other games, for example, like the one we talked about before, the 游戏王英文叫什么？叫 Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, there's a one-of-one card that just got sold for $310,000. How should we represent that part in the Chia TCG game?
We're not doing anything close to that right now. We hope somebody else makes those type of games and they help discover how to do that. What I will tell you, what I have high level strategy ideas, but I need the communities to work together to figure out if it's really works or not. Okay, so I'll tell you the high level ideas of how this might work. Okay, but it really comes down to the developers to figure out if it can work. My view is each game has the ability to control their part of the metadata for each of the NFTs. Okay, so that no other game can affect their gameplay balance. But because it's on datalayer, each game can decide, oh, the other game's balance is pretty good for this part. We'll take those stats and use it. Okay, so if you grew certain stats on another game, this other game can say, well, you know what, that's kind of fair. We think it's okay. We will inherit those. But they can also choose not to inherit other things. Okay, this is fundamentally why I want datalayer to store all these additional metadata or changes to each NFT per game. Okay, now, can it really work? I don't know. That's where I need 2 or 3 game developers to work together and see how it works. Nobody's done this. We just don't know, you know? But that's the exciting part. Nobody's done it. So we get to try. We get to try now, not wait 5 or 10 years later to see. Okay.
我现在这一刻呢，没有任何甚至离接近于给你答案的这个答案，但是我可以给你一个大概的一个我的一个从高处的一个看法。当然这个部分需要社区来去决定技术方面是否能达成。每一个游戏都会在未来拥有自己的元数据的一个控制权，没有别的游戏可以影响这一点。但是呢，这数据层每个游戏可以决定是否要把数据层中别的游戏的一部分，别的游戏的正在使用的并且平衡的很好的一部分拿过来。比如说一个游戏认为另外一个游戏在这部分做得很好，他们可以选择把这一部分复制过来。但是这个就是我要做的，要用数据层的一个核心的一个基本的原因。但是当然，这个是能这样子操作的吗？我并不太清楚。这个是需要不同的开发者一起去解决，或者是去 figure out 的一件事情。但是好处是，我们可以现在这一刻就可以把这个事情处理好，并不用再等5年或者等10年，现在就可以操作。
OK， 好的，谢谢Chia，谢谢。
这儿有一位举手的 Marcus 是谁啊？你可以。
Hello, could I ask the question in English?
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. It's really exciting what's going on, and I appreciate the time in putting this together. So basically, I'm kind of fairly new programming, working on a web-based game that uses Chia NFTs. I'm interested in learning how to manage and display specific NFTs within the collection using the profiles and DIDs or wallet addresses, just like how it's done with the Chia TCG. So I think my question is more on the open source part. I was wondering if this is going to be available for me to study and learn it, or is there materials already available out documented? Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to translate that first, Bernard?
So the question is, sorry, would you mind to repeat the last part? Is
oh yeah, sorry. Let me just say that again. So currently, the website I just visited, the Chia TCG, I see that users are able to input their wallet address or the DIDs, and I understand that it captures the assets that they've owned in the wallets. My question is more specific to the open source, or when this project is open source, would that also be available within the code so that I can maybe kind of learn and study from that to apply to the game that I'm trying to do as well?
现在这一刻在互联网上的现在在网上的这部分有一部分是将你的钱包去捕捉你钱包，然后在我的理解你的钱包是有风险的。然后那如果在未来 open 开源以后呢，我们是不是有能力去学习这部分的内容，并且做出我自己的游戏来？
Yes. So there's two aspects to the answer. We will be open sourcing a good chunk of the game. But we're using a community developer, right? So it's not ours per se. It's the community developer stuff, and we encourage them to open source a good chunk of their game. Okay. I think there's two areas that may not be as open sourced. Okay. And we agreed to these terms because it actually seems fair. Okay. So one is all the actual display of the assets itself, meaning when I say display, like the GUI aspect and the GUI interface stuff, that probably won't be open source, but because every game is going to be different, they have to have their own GUI anyway. So it didn't really matter. And the other reason is because they license third parties technology to do this, they're not allowed to license that stuff, right? So it's just they cannot they can't open source stuff that they sublicense as commercial products. So that's the first part. Okay, so you will not see as open source. It's like the front end GUI stuff, but it shouldn't matter to your development efforts. Do you want to translate that first, Mark? Yeah，
是的，这个答案有两部分，第一部分是我们会开源很大一部分，但是这个本身并不是我们来决定的，是我们鼓励我们的这个社区开发者来做的。另外一些部分是不会被开源的，比如说游戏的界面本身是不会被开源的。当然这个并不重要，因为你需要去开发每个游戏都需要开发自己的这个客户端。同时呢，同时牵扯到这个版权的这部分，就是副版权的这部分也不会被开源，因为这个是牵扯到整个的这个版权法律的问题。
Now, the parts that you're worried about and concerned about, some of it will probably be open source and easy to get. Some of it probably will be a little bit different, but it depends on how you want to solve the problem. And what I might mean by this is the following. If you want to run your own node and you run your own wallet service, there is documentation in the Chia docs website that tells you all the things how to do that. Okay. I think it's called, let me just look it and I'll link it into the Zoom chat for you so you don't have to go look. So I'm going to give directly to the NFT stuff here for you. Give me a second.
Let me translate that part.
Yeah, go ahead.
有一些你想要的部分是开源的，可能会对你来说是非常容易拿到的。有一些是有一点点不太一样的地方。取决于你想要如何去解决这个问题。如果你想要跑自己的全节点的话，想要跑自己的服务的话，那么我可以给你Chia 有完整的文件去告诉你如何去做这部分。然后文件已经发到了这个Zoom 的整个聊天里。
This is a rabbit hole. You could take weeks, if not months, to learn this. Okay, and that's okay. Happy for you to do it. Your other option is there are a few developer projects now that try to make it easier so you don't have to learn all this stuff. I think there's Fire Academy, Mojo Node. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, some other community members might know this better than me. I don't follow it as much. And then for Chia TCG, we're using a node as a service, or what do you want to call it? But just a blockchain abstraction layer called ChiaPi. Okay, it's developed by the same group that's developing the Chia TCG project. For obvious reasons, for their business needs, they're not going to open source that part, but they'll provide these APIs. And we also made an agreement with Cult Solutions, who's making the game, and ChiaPi, that any developer who wants to use it at low scale, meaning you're for development purposes and you're not making money yet, they'll provide it for free, and we will help subsidize that. But once you've launched your game, you start making some serious money, you may want to, well, you will be required to pay a little bit of money to use this node as a service. Then you don't have to run your own blockchain. You don't have to run your own Chia node or your wallets and what have you to make your life easier. But this is part of what I was talking about. We want a full blockchain abstraction layer for game developers so that it's easy for them to integrate, so they don't have to learn the rabbit hole of what I just linked you here. If you go down the rabbit hole of docschia.net and the guide for the NFT development guide, like I said, it could take you weeks to months to learn it all.
这是一个很深的兔子洞。如果你真的要去看的话，可能会花费你几周甚至数月时间去学习。当然，你有另外一个选项，就是其他的开发者正在想尝试去做一些工序，让它变得更简单，比如说 Far Academy 啊、Mojo Nodes 啊，或者其他的一些社区成员应该知道的比我更多一些。Chia TCG 的一部分是就是 Chia TCG 有一个部分就是跑全节点作为一个服务。 这个部分做的这部分叫 ChiaPi，然后也是由Chia TCG 的同样开发者开发出来的。但是这部分当然很明显它是不会被开源的，因为这是公司要挣钱的。当然如果开发者在未来挣到了很多钱的话，那你肯定是要去为这个为全节点这个别人跑全节点这个服务是付钱的。这当然好处就是你不需要跑你自己的 Chia 的全节点，对你来说的话，整个更容易一些。再次声明，如果你想要去学习这整个的这个，这也是为什么我想去做一个提取层，让这游戏更好的去进入到Chia中。当然，再次声明，如果你想要去进入到这个兔子洞中的话，你可能会花数周的时间，甚至数月。
Thank you, Richard. And I think just a quick comment for this concept that I'm going with. I think the API is a bit more suitable for what I'm trying to do. Could you repeat that again? Where can I find that?
Okay, so ChiaPi, wait till when we open source on June 1st. Then they'll also will announce, beginning developers who want to integrate, similar to how Chia TCG did it. You can integrate for free for development purposes. So
awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
June 1st, right?
Yeah, June 1st.
ChiaPi 是 June 1st 6月1号开源。
Along with the Chia TCG open source.
和 Chia TCG 一起开源。
Yeah.
Great. So anyone else? No? Okay. If there's no one jump out, I think that's all for today. And it's also time to the midnight in Seattle.
I do have one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll let you figure out with your community in Discord or whatever you use or WeChat. I will give 2 people alpha access to the game so they can start playing and trying it. It's not finished yet, obviously. It's called alpha for a reason. What you need to do is you run whatever contest you want, okay, for your community. And then you provide me the 2 DIDs you want whitelisted, okay?
Okay.
And then we will whitelist their DID, and then they can start trying and playing the game in early access. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much. And I hope everybody can enjoy our contest later to win the 2 rare names. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. I thought I saw somebody else raise their hand. If they did, I feel bad.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Somebody else?
But maybe they're not here anymore. I thought I saw one, but I don't see the hand anymore.
Let me check.
后面这部分你要翻译一下吗？
你翻译也可以啊。就是Richard 给了咱们一个 bonus， 一个机会，就是他会给2个名额，来参加他的这个 Alpha 的这个测试啊，这个游戏啊，就优先参加这个游戏。只要是咱们河马道的会员，按照我们今天，因为他是刚给到我这个消息，所以也没准备。反正我们会在群里面、社区里面搞一个抽奖啊，然后大家有2个名额，赢了以后就可以优先啊。OG 永远是很值钱的，即便是不是真的钱，但是它对你事先获得很多信息也是非常有好处的，很值钱啊。
谢谢。
OG OG 就是 old， OG how to say
Original Gangster
original OK 好，非常感谢各位周末来参加我们的 AMA。那么今天的 AMA 呢就到此结束，再次感谢大家，也祝大家周末愉快。我们同时要感谢 Richard， 也感谢Bernard 辛苦做翻译他们现在Bernard 都是凌晨2点3点了那个 Richard 马上12点了，所以感谢他们2位。好，谢谢大家，今天的会议圆满结束，谢谢，咱们下一次再见。
再见
See you. Thank you everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.